Jai Sri Krishna. In this session, we begin our study with chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. So we have already covered chapter 1, 2, and 3. This chapter is titled Gyan Karma Sannyas Yoga. Knowledge means the yoga of knowledge and disciplines of action. In this chapter, Lord Krishna builds upon the teaching of chapter 2 and 3, expanding on Sankhya Yoga, that is yoga of knowledge, Buddhi Yoga, yoga of wisdom, and Karma Yoga, that is yoga of selfless action. So chapter 2 is devoted to Sankhya Yoga and Buddhi Yoga, whereas chapter 3 is dedicated to Karma Yoga. So chapter 4 is extension of chapter 2 and 3. So let's first recite with the verses. uh, Start with the recitation of verses, then we will look into the meaning and significance of this. Sri Bhagavan Vach Imam Vivaswati Yogam Proktavan Hamavyayam Vivasvan Manvi Praha Munirikshvak Vibravit Evam Parampara Praptim Imam Rajarashayo Viduhu सकाले निहमहता योगो नष्टः परन्तप स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्. Lord Krishna says, I first imparted this knowledge to God's Son. Basically, the God Son is symbol of creation of this universe. So this knowledge, what does it mean? It means that this knowledge is eternal. This is eternal knowledge. And Lord Krishna says, the eternal knowledge I have spoken of has been passed down through generations by great sages and spiritual philosophers, rishis. However, over time, this knowledge was lost. Because you are my friend and devotee, I will impart this knowledge. I will impart this sacred wisdom to you today. When Lord Krishna says like this, Arjun questions. Arjun watch. Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivaswatah kathame tad vijaniyam tvamadau proktavaniti. Sun God was born long before you were born. Then how come you imparted this eternal knowledge to him? This is the question put forth by Arjun to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna responds, Sri Bhagavan Vach Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tav charjuna tanyaham ved sarvani natam ved parantapa अजोपि सन्नवययात्मा भूतानामीश्वरोऽपि सन् प्रकृतिं स्वामधिष्ठाय सम्भवाम्यात्ममायया यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन वीतरागभयक्रोधा मन्मया ममुपाश्रिता बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावम् आगताः. The underlying message for an individual here is that this timeless wisdom, when Lord Krishna says that I imparted this wisdom first to Sun God, it implies that it's an eternal wisdom, it's an eternal knowledge which liberates one from worldly sufferings. And that is the purpose of Adhyatma, spirituality. And it must be continually remembered and practiced. We should not allow it to be lost. We should not allow it to fade. Because if so happens, we are entangled in the material miseries of the world. If this knowledge is lost, if this knowledge is forgotten, we become entangled in the material miseries of the world. Lord Krishna further explains, whenever there is realization that this knowledge, which is an eternal truth and which is there in our consciousness, has been forgotten, this realization awakens one to it. This realization awakens one to this knowledge once again. And this knowledge purifies a person's actions and deeds. That's what yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham mean. And how does it help? It helps paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So this message is for an individual. Whereas if we go by literal meaning, it means that whenever there is downfall of dharma, that is righteousness, I create myself in physical form, like Lord Krishna has created himself in Mahabharata. And that's how he appears on the earth to save sadhus, means to save the goodness, to save the good people, and vinasaya chaduskritam, and destroy the wrongdoers, to destroy the sinners, so that dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yogi, so that he re-establishes dharma. He re-establishes dharma. He upholds dharma. And it happens millennium after millennium, yuge yuge. But at individual level, it means realization of the loss of this wisdom and knowledge. Once you realize, you awaken to it. Means at individual level, this dharma, righteousness is re-established. And this realization helps us purify our actions and deeds. So the key message here is that we have to remember. And that is the philosophy behind prayer. We speak out the same thing again and again just to remind it. In these verses, he also speaks about his eternal nature as Brahman. Brahman as the source of universal consciousness. Lord Krishna states, I am beyond birth and death. I am not bound by any karma. I transcend the cycle of creation and dissolution. So consider me as Brahman, as the supreme, as universal consciousness. Hey Arjun, don't consider me as the king of Dwarka, as friend of yours, in this bodily form. When I am imparting this knowledge, and when I say that I imparted this knowledge to Sun God, I am the Brahman. So in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is not the king of Dwarika. He is the supreme being, the supreme entity, the Brahman. And he says, those who understand this truth are freed from the cycle of death and birth. What does it mean? This means with this understanding, one starts aligning himself with consciousness. One starts identifying himself with consciousness. Thereby, he detaches himself from this earthly body. And so, he frees himself from the cycle of death and birth, from duality, happiness and misery, hot and cold. These are duality, opposite tendencies. So he frees himself from these dualities. And that's what freedom from death and birth mean here. So the key message here is that one who grasps the eternal nature of the soul and its connection to divine will have little attachment to this material body. With this understanding, they are freed from the worldly miseries and something like these which are caused by attachment to the material things. Lord Krishna further says, Vitarag Bhaya Krodha. Those, by staying in this knowledge, those who are free from attachment, fear, and anger, by staying in this knowledge, the knowledge that I have imparted, Karma Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, Jnana Yoga. So those who are free from attachment, fear, and anger by staying in this knowledge are dear to me. Such people are dear to me. Means I protect them means this knowledge protects them. This knowledge makes them blissful. So this is the message through these verses by Lord Krishna. In the upcoming session, we will explore more, uh, you know, into the teachings in this chapter. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.